camera. Oh shoot, my bad. Go ahead.
What's up, everybody? What's going on? Welcome to the Well Encounter. And as they have put on the bottom of your screen, if you're watching, make sure that you like this post. Make sure that you share this with other people. And make sure that you comment and let us know that you are here.
Come talk to us.
That's right. We want to know that you are with us. As I can see, I believe that there are some people already on with us. And I'm saying hello to you guys wherever you might be. I know that I think I saw that my wonderful grandmother, I believe, is on. It's crazy because I think I just now got frozen on my phone. So all the people that's on, we welcome you. Listen, this is the Well Encounter, and why don't you take a moment and share this everywhere that you are, so that other people can now watch and be a part of the Well Encounter. To all of our regulars that I know are probably on, like Jawan and Nikki's, good to see you. And I hope that everybody's having a blessed day thus far. There we go. Hey, Monica. Hey, Ida Robinson, and all the other folks that are on. Anyway, this is the Well Encounter. Listen, what is the Well? It is a creative arts and conscious awareness faith community. We are all about community. We want you to be a part of our community. So hopefully we can expand this community and just be a part of a loving community. Hopefully. We will.
Okay, there we go. I like that better. There you go. Listen. I correct you a little bit. Sorry, my bad.
We had such a dynamic time last week, and this week is not going to be any different. We've got some amazing guests with you.
Yeah.
We hope that if you have not liked the Amplified Network page, which is the gracious host, hope that you will take a moment and like the Amplified Network page as well. Listen, encounter, become, emerge, and share. That is our theme here. Yep. We want you to encounter the well, become the well, and then emerge and share the amazing water of the well. Synonymous with encounter Jesus, become like Jesus, emerge and share Jesus, encounter love, become love, emerge and share love. Encounter light, become light, emerge and share light.
You go.
Encounter hope, become hope, emerge and share hope.
I'm gonna run out of here.
I don't know. Listen, let me stop before I get too far ahead of myself.
Oh, man.
Listen, again, like and share this. Everything that we do, this is the part, right? Everything we do should lead you down the path to the P's, the 5 P's that we think are so important.
I am so happy that you said that this time, because I did not want to get a message saying, hey, y'all forgot the 5 P's.
I already know. Listen, you know, it's amazing. I want to say, right, like, what I love is that you guys watch the well so much. Our community is so faithful that when I forget to say something, you guys remind us of it.
Yes.
And listen, that's how you know that people are so
That is holding each other accountable.
That is holding each other accountable.
Yes. I love it.
So the 5 P's. Do you want to share what those 5 P's are?
You hold me accountable to know, baby. So we have peace, promise, passion, power, and purpose.
That's it.
That's it right there. If I didn't do it in order though. It's cool.
Hey, listen. As long as you got it.
Hey. I'm excited for
I see that Brennan's mom is on.
Hey, Brennan's mom.
So it's always good to have her on. Jerian Crenshaw is on. So hey, Jerian, all the folks that are on. Listen, we have our regulars. Our whole crew is with us.
Oh yeah,
Pastor Tay's with us.
Brennen B is with us.
Blazing. And then we have 2 amazing guest panelists with us today. And so,
awesome,
without further ado, I think it's time to bring them in.
in.
Super producer Jackie, can you bring in our amazing, beautiful people?
Gang. Oh, look at them fellas right there.
Boom.
Yo, but seriously, isn't it amazing to be able to have just amazing brothers on the platform just to talk and have conversation?
Man, it's amazing to have amazing brothers.
That is amazing.
Well, why don't you share with who our amazing brothers are?
So, I'm going to start. Oh, shoot. We're not on the bottom this time. So, to the second co-host, Brother Brennen, man, let them know who you are, where you come from, what you do, bro.
Listen, man, I'm just, I'm black at it again, black at it to win. And I'm like super happy to have all of this melanated masculine energy out here today. You know what I mean? It's just nice to see that, man. It's nice to see that, all talking about good things in good spaces. I'm ready for the conversation though.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. And to my on fire blazing pastor over there, let them know who you are, Pastor.
Hey, what's up, Pastor Tay? Church Minded Matter, well, formerly of Blazing Radio, just happy to be here. And yeah, let's get it going.
That's what's up. So I honestly don't feel honored enough to introduce these two high men at the top of me. So you gonna have to do that. Like,
Oh man,
I'm not even there yet. I'm not even on that platform yet to introduce them. So you gonna have to do that, man. You got them two.
Don't ever put yourself down. 3J, Minister 3J is an amazing guy. But listen, I'm so glad and honored that we have two special brothers with us today. I'm going to let them have about 60 seconds to just share who they are, where they're from, who they might be representing, and any fun fact that they might have. So we'll start up to my left on the screen.
You're right on mine, right?
Right. To me, I'm looking at it as my right, but I think to others it's on your left. Brother Mark, why don't you share who you are and where you're from and sort of what you do?
Hey, Will Encounter. My name is Mark Harrison. I work for the United Methodist Church at the Board of Church and Society in Washington, D.C. I do public advocacy work on global hunger and poverty and war and peace. But a major important issue of mine is the right to vote, because we struggled for it for so long, and we want to keep that right. So I say, let's encounter the vote.
Yeah,
I know that's
like
right.
that. I like that.
Hey, listen.
See, that's why.
That's
why I didn't. That's why I didn't have the privilege to introduce him. See, that dynamic.
Hey, listen. He came out the game remixing. You know what I mean? That's fantastic.
That was emerge and share the vote.
That was
right
amazing.
Yeah.
Oh man. Sweet.
And then in the upper corner to my now right, is my
We're gonna get it together.
My brother Sean. Sean, why don't you share who you are, where you're from, what you're currently doing, and whatever fun fact you might want to share with the folks.
Yes, of course. I'm glad to be here on the Will today. Again, my name is Sean Michael Wilson. I've been involved in politics here in Prince George's County, Maryland since 2010. So that's 11 years now. I currently work for the Office of the State's Attorney while I'm the municipal liaison. I work with all the 27 mayors here in our county and council members. And I'm a community advocate, been helping people be involved in the electoral process since the 2010 election. So, and I'm moving forward and hopefully do some great things coming up this 2022 election year.
Awesome. You put a powerhouse on the panel, bro. Like that's what you decided to do, son. Like that's what you decided to do. Like I bet that's what's up. Okay.
Listen, I also want to say I know that our brother Jawan just jumped on. So
what's up, bro?
What's going on, Jawan? I see that you came in. Listen, I do want to say this. I want to give a shout out.
I love that.
I do want to give a shout out to our state's attorney, Aisha Braveboy.
Hey.
I want to make this announcement. Sean said he works there. He is not in representation of that office here right now. But I do want to give a shout out to her because she came on, State's Attorney Braveboy came on earlier in the summer, and we were so honored to have her. So it was pretty dope to have your state's attorney on.
That was fun.
She had a lot of fun with us.
Yeah, she did.
That was really cool. Yeah,
Sean, you gotta have the same fun. Like you gotta have fun too. If you're not gonna have fun, then I don't know what to tell you.
Listen, but the views and opinions are of my own.
That's right.
Make that clear. I understand.
Make it clear.
Right.
I do want to say this. Sean is also a part of. It's so amazing because we have such an illustrious group of folks that are. We love our Wellians.
Yes.
So good shout out to our Wellians. Miss Nikki just got on. I saw her pop up.
Hey.
But Sean is a Wellian.
Yes,
I
he
just
is.
want to say that. You know what I'm saying? Sean is a Wellian.
Hey, we got one of the Wellians for real on here now.
You know what I mean? So it's pretty dope, man. Let's hop right into our conversation. We got a great conversation tonight. I know Brennen B, Tehran, 3J, y'all are ready. Listen, we're talking about where our title tonight that is on our flyer that 3J so illustriously illustrated is Stop the Vote. And I know our titles always kind of grab you. And so we wanted to talk about it because, listen, we're not trying to stop the vote, but there are people who are trying to stop the vote. Man. There are people who are trying to stop the vote, which I can't believe. But I want to start with. Well,
My bad.
so we
Here we
send
go.
questions.
I was gonna say
to
it's not
all of
that
our
hard to
folks.
believe.
Right, it's not hard to believe at all, but you know.
We send questions to all of our folks, and all of those questions don't always go in order. But I'd like to talk for just a moment. First and foremost, is people of faith. I'd like to know from both Sean and Mark, and then of course our gang. We can talk about this, but all of us, do y'all feel like as spiritual people, should we vote? Should we participate in the democracy of our country and in the voting process of our country?
Yes, because that's a great picture, man. I'm glad you used that one. I was at the that was at a demonstration that took place in Washington D.C. I just want to say, all my life, since I was a little boy, I was born and raised in Washington D.C. And I remember the March on Washington. I was too small to go. My parents were, quote, afraid that something was going to happen. And my father would go down to the march and come back home and tell us what was going on. And on that day, I got the lesson on fighting for our rights as Black people and our survival. And as you go back in history, ever since we've been here, they've always tried to take our rights. They've always tried to put laws on us. But we have God on our side. We've always looked up to God to help free us. And that is why I think the right to vote is critical for us. It's critical for this democracy. We call it democracy if we're going to have the right to vote. And this voting suppression that's going on now is absolutely scandalous. And it's, quote, the devil at work. Let me just leave it at that.
Ooh, he started
Okay.
up like he
Okay.
gave introduction already. Like,
It's the smoke. It's all
like
smoke
he's
out
coming
the
with
gate.
all smoke already. Like, gee, brother Sean, what you think?
I can say that I definitely agree. If we look at the scripture, the Bible says, "Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's." So he's telling you to do what the law of the land says. If the law of the land says vote, then you vote. He didn't say this did me what I'm asking for. He said you go render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Then it also for be reminded people of faith, if you're talking about that you're believing for something to be done, sometimes you have to go to a place to get it done. So sometimes you have to put that faith into action. That's why the word tells you that faith without works is dead. You put your faith in action at the voter box.
And I just want to say that United Methodist Church, where I work, that we have what we call social principles. We have a book of resolutions, and we say, and one of those principles is we hold governments responsible for the protection of the rights of people to free and fair elections. The form and the leaders of all governments should be determined by the exercise of the right to vote guaranteed to all adult citizens. So it's in our resolution, is in what we call our social teachings. Yes, sir. You got your hand up. What does that mean?
I want to throw a curveball early. I mean, we here now. Y'all got the juice on. So, like,
we gotta breathe real quick because they kind of went in swinging like
we here.
First thing, bro. Like, yeah.
As Christians, and all of us, I believe, identify as Christians. If not, my apologies. But as Christians, how do we wrestle with the fact that it is in large part a large group of people that consider themselves Christians as well and identify as Christians that are pushing these voter suppression laws? And for example, like we've known that, or in the past, we've actually had United Methodists who have been elected officials and things like that. And also, I think Jeff Sessions was Attorney General, right? And he was United Methodist in Alabama or something like that. And so it's like
Raymond, what about we had who is it? Governor Wallace, was he also United Methodist?
True.
Raymond, don't look at him. Be quiet now.
Yeah, right. When we have people identify with us, with our faith, even with our
Yeah.
denomination, and they
Yeah.
sit on the other side of this coin that we all view
Yes.
as, you know, a right and a privilege from God to make a choice. You know, how do we wrestle with that?
Well,
So
I
is
wrestle
it?
with that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me say this before you even start. So I just want to be clear because Brendan, you bring up a point, but I want to make sure that everyone who's with us follows.
Mhm.
You bring up a point that there are people who are there are people who are trying to stop certain voting, or they're trying to make it harder for others to vote, and that's what we're calling like the suppression of voting. I love it, Miss. And so, can we talk a little bit about what that is, though? Because here's the thing. I think this encounter can serve not only as a conversation but a learning experience, which I think all of them do.
Absolutely.
But I want to make sure people follow us, and so there are things happening like the Freedom to Vote Act that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, and we want to talk about also the John Lewis bill that is up, but. Mark, can you shape for us what is happening in our country and what's happening around the globe? What is this movement that we're saying that? Why do we feel like there's this voter suppression? What is that's happening? What's going on that people might not be aware of?
Well, I think it's a racist against Black people, and it's also an act to try to determine the outcome of an election. All right. And this is going on mainly in 19 states across the country, mainly in the South. We have Texas, we have Georgia after the victory of Reverend Warnock and Ossoff, and that's how we got 50 senators. Now we have the situation in Florida. The idea that the thing is to determine the outcome in order about racism, but also I think it's also about economic power as well, because the Republican Party, which is leading this effort against voting suppression, wants to make sure that the corporate power remains where it is and gets all the rights, and we don't. Most of us don't have rights. So I mean, the thing is, this issue of race and racism. We've always been struggling with this in the sense of, well, why are white people supporting this stuff? What makes them think that when you cut back on votes that they're going to have programs of social uplift is going to be there for them if they get rid of it from us? All right. So that's been one of the main struggles that we've had in this country of white supremacy and that's at work. So what these southern states are doing are putting in place laws that, one, if you stand in line long enough, they can't give you water. All right. The issue is, where can the drop boxes be? Who can you do early voting? All right. All right. So it's for Republicans, it's so tight that they look at the people who will even though it will hurt some Republicans, the people that they are headed on are mainly Black and brown people. All right, so that's what's happening today in these states, and it is also tied into the thing that the elections were stolen. Biden didn't win. Trump was cheated. So you have all this going on at the same time, and I think we need to also look at these TV stations and radio stations that continuously put out this propaganda that has mobilized folk that particularly Republicans, that the election was stolen.
So, I mean, and if you guys have a comment,
no. I'm like you said, it's a learning experience. I'm learning.
Just to add on to that, it's not just, and I agree with everything you said, but it's not just a racist issue, right? Like, this is a national issue, because you're not just talking about racism, you're talking about suppressing people, not just Black and brown community, but people who just can't get out to vote, right? In different communities. And when you look at, I believe one of the stipulations is you can't gather people, you can't get them in a van and transport. So now, what if I have people in nursing homes and aren't able to get out? You know what I mean? So there's so many loopholes that it makes it it's a slight on democracy as a whole. So you're right. It
It's
is
an
a racist
attack
thing.
on democracy, not a
Exactly.
slight. It's an attack.
So is it so with this attack is about power? Who gets more power? Who can run more? Who
Yes,
can control
yes,
more? Who can?
yes.
Okay. I just wanted to know for my
But
clarification because I've already thought that, but
I mean, I hear your point, but it's
sure
interesting because this is one question that we keep asking. If some of these, the way these laws are they've come up with these voter suppression laws, are, well, won't this affect Republican voters as well? And the response is yes. All right, so why are Republicans not in an uproar about that? And you can say, well, we've done our job. We've done our, we looked at how, if these laws pass, who's going to get hurt the most. Yes, we may lose some Republican voters, but the Democrats are going to lose much more voters. It's going to really hit black people. You know, like what is it? What is it? What do you call it on Sunday when you go out to vote early? Souls to the polls and all that type of they're going after all
That's
of that stuff.
literally yep. And that's what I was actually going to mention that because in that was one of the sticklers in Texas was that they I think they had fully eliminated Sunday voting, and that's when I believe it was reported like I think it was like 75 to 80% of black people voted in some counties on Sunday, and it was like at their either at their church or like right after church. It was when they were going to vote and things like that, and so it's like to see and it watching that. I mean, like understanding that and looking at the numbers, like it's very strategic. It's shrewd, like strategically to do what they doing, but it's nasty.
I'm glad you mentioned souls to the polls because the black church has been our backbone for political action for even since back slavery time. How did we convene during the slavery time? We used the black church. The black church was our way of convening through the segregation times. Now the black church is still that tool to get people to the polls through their vans or whatnot. They have the politicians come speak at the black churches. They promote their black agendas through the black churches now to this day.
Hey, y'all seen Trump when he was trying to get the black vote?
That is one of their mechanisms. But another thing though is to pay attention to is gerrymandering. Yes. For how they cut in districts and right now, even in a majority black county where I live at, they're trying to cut districts where people who are highly contested or top tier candidates who are running against the current incumbents here for county council. Okay. What they did, instead of saying, "Oh, I'll just run my race and see can I beat you," no, I want to cut you out your own district, put you in somebody else's district.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, when we talk more about the legislation is going to try to address that because now the districts, congressional districts, are being redrawn because they do it every 10 years. And now the way it's set up now, and particularly in many Republican states,
can I just go in there quick?
Go ahead.
That every 10 years it's the census, so they can do the
yes. Okay. And I know the census gets. Sometimes we feel, well, do we want to participate in the census or not? Yeah, you want to participate in the census because the congressional districts are going to be redrawn, and therefore the census determines what goods and services that the government gives your congressional district. So that's one of the reasons why it's important to participate in the census. So the census was just done during a pandemic. And I think this is the first time we've ever had a census done during a pandemic. So then they set up these commissions in various states to draw what is called congressional districts. I think this was for those of us in the state of Maryland. I don't think we're losing anyone, but we're not gaining anyone. and it's less contentious here in the state of Maryland. But in other states around the country, the Republicans are really trying to draw the congressional districts to their advantage so that they will hold the U.S. House of Representatives for the next 10 years. All right, that's what they're going to attempt to do.
It's not even just like on a federal like House of Representatives. It's even like local, state, like
state level. Yeah.
Hold, like, and that's one of the things that.
But
Tennessee, Republicans in Tennessee, Nashville, of course, a growing city, it's growing more liberal. Redistricting is going to make it to where basically there are no Democratic or Democrat voted state senators in the entire state, because they're redistricting the larger cities where they were voted in, basically.
Yeah. And I see that Miss Nikki also pointed out Virginia is now in a hot race that's gaining a lot of national attention as well. Is they're trying to vote for their governor, which is a tough race over there.
A tough race.
I want to ask.
So it shouldn't be though, from what I've been hearing. From what I've been hearing, it shouldn't be. One dude sounds crazy, and the other one it's just like. I mean, but.
No, I don't understand how Virginia, this person who got Trump's support, and now he's trying to run away. The Republicans trying to run away from support, and given what happened on January 6th and so forth. But I just want to say, in Virginia, it's about Northern Virginia.
Well, listen, I do want to
That's
say
what it's
this.
about. Yeah, it's all about Northern Virginia.
I do apologize to our folks. I do always say I like to make sure that we're well rounded. I don't think I have anybody that labels themselves as Republicans on this evening, and so I do apologize if you're a Republican and watching. I don't have anyone that represents you. Please,
I will say. Let me say this, Ramon, the former Republican. What is it? What we have? A vice governor. What do we call him? He is good. What's the guy? He comes
Lieutenant Governor.
Huh? The Lieutenant Governor. Not the one now, but the one previous Lieutenant Governor has been outspoken about all of this. He was head of the Republican National Committee. All right. So I'm not saying that all Republicans are doing this, but 90% of them are. All right. That's just how I see it. All right, I don't think we as Black people, we need to fight for our rights. That's how I see it. Now look, 95% of Black women voted for who? 95% of Black women. We already know where Black folks stand. More than 85% of Black men voted for who? So we know where most of our people stand. So I don't think that we should spend more time saying about, well, we got these Republicans. Well, what do they think? I mean, when it comes to the Black community, that's how I see it. Now, if I was in, as Ramon, in a United Methodist setting with white folk up there, we had to say it a little bit differently. Now, and I get that.
Getting life right now.
And Ramon, you know that the Black pastors in Methodist Church have to go to white churches to become pastors, and they complain they can't preach how they should talk, and then they get around Black folk and they say, "Oh, I'm back at home. I can say it the way I want to say it." Preach, brother.
Well,
and that's one of the things, because they're gonna send this brother to Montgomery County. I'm sorry to get away on this.
I only say it because I do like to make sure that we like to make sure that on the encounter that we do have.
Don't be too partisan, brother. Don't be too partisan, right?
No. But we do it because one of the bases of the well is to make sure that people know, is a Christian, just because you take different sides of the aisle does not mean you can't come together.
Right.
And we always
no. What I'm saying is, it is not Christian to take votes away from people because of their skin color.
No.
That's what I think is the most important thing.
Right. No, I agree.
Or period, take votes away. I don't even want Democrats to take votes away from people.
Right. We're more so saying that we always make sure, we try to make sure that people know that no matter who you are, even if you do feel like votes are not being taken away, we can still come together and say, you know what, but I still love you at the end of the day. I'm not saying that I agree that votes should be taken away, but
well,
I can say that.
I mean, come on. I mean, I hear that. So I love these white guys who are taking away our votes. Is that what you're saying? I mean, we need to be clear on that. I don't think Jesus taught that. Jesus taught righteousness. He did not say, I'm going, all right, let's go have a big powwow. It's okay for you to take my vote. No, it ain't okay to take my vote.
Can I jump in right quick?
We died too long. We died too profusely. No, you can't take my vote.
Go ahead,
I will not come on the show again because you won't like me. Go on, brother. Sean, go on.
We're talking about the spiritual aspect of things, right? Since this is the will ministry. We're not wrestling against that person. We're wrestling against that spirit of racism. We're wrestling against that spirit of hatred. So the Bible says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but we're wrestling against principalities and rulers of darkness.
You better bring it back to church. Okay, John.
So
you better bring it back.
In Proverbs 29 and 2, and that's another reason why you Christians need to get out and vote. It says, "The righteous, we rejoice when a righteous man is in office."
And but going back to the earlier question though is, who do Christians consider righteousness?
Right.
I am sure that Graham, what's his name? You know, these Christian, what they call the Christian right, would say that Trump was righteous, right?
Absolutely.
So I think that the one of the things that I struggle with is, what does it mean to be Christian? It is hard to be a Christian. And do we as Christians, do we support a God or do we support gods? Because there's also the prosperity God, right? So a lot of people saying, is that one God that we preach? The God of big money. Do we preach? Do we bow down to that? So I think we as Christians have a history of saying we are for one God, but maybe we are not. Maybe we're for different gods.
I think people need to get to the
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you know, because remember at one point people didn't believe in one God, right? For the most part,
check your discernment at the door, please.
Yes, she's right. Let's bow down to Sean. Go on, brother.
Just check your discernment at the door. Pastor, was it Paula White? Check your discernment, please. Go back, go to your prayer closet and pray. Go seek God's face and turn from your wicked ways. Then come back to him again.
Nah, Sean, remember they prayed and they had the angels coming from Africa?
The wicked. I mean, I can't get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just
Back on track.
Listen, I did not expect tonight to be this fun. But let me bring it in for a quick second. So let me ask this question. Mark, you have been in this struggle and you've been fighting for civil rights for a long time. Can you just walk us through sort of like how did you get here? Right? Like what brought you to this place where this is at your heart and you're as passionate about it as you are?
Well, what happened? Because at one point I was into flashy clothes, right? When I was in high school. And when I went off to college, my father said, we ain't sending you to college to be in flashy clothes. And there was, in college, I went to Morgan State. And, in college, you get to hear different speakers. And if you go. And one of the things was the guy criticized us. Remember we wore platform shoes. And it was, I'm just trying to think of what his name was. Anyway, he said something that struck the core of me. And when I came along, it was during the Vietnam War days. So the question is, well, where are black people on the Vietnam War? Are we, I mean, because the military, where a black man could go and lay his head and get some type of respect, right, in the military. But we came out on the campus of Morgan State against the Vietnam War. And I remember very distinctly what happened, how the police came down so hard on Morgan State University for demonstrating against the war. So ever since then, in that time, I've been engaged in what is called the civil rights movement. I've been involved in African liberation movements. I've lived in Africa. I even spent some time in Europe. So the United Methodist Church is also, and that was before I took a job with the United Methodist Church. So I've been able to see a lot of part of the world, a large part of Africa, parts of Latin America, and to see the struggles that people live through day to day. And that has also influenced my work and who I am. And so, and then I ended up with a job at the United Methodist Church, and they allowed me in the position to fight for justice. All right. And that's an important part of the United Methodist churches, and most churches, particularly Black church in particular, of the struggles for civil and human rights throughout the world. All right. So that's how I got to where I am today. All right.
Yeah.
But my mother used to say, Mark wants to give everything away. I said, no, that's not the case, Mama. I don't want to give everything away.
So I love that story, man.
Oh, my grandmother was very active too in DC. I don't know if you all remember. I was with my cousin the other day. She was at the funeral. She talked about the war, and my grandmother was very active in community programs in Washington D.C. So that also influenced my work as well.
Yeah.
That village.
So I love that story because it talks about family and the role that family plays in helping younger people to sort of see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And Sean, you are in this work as a younger person. So I'm wondering, right, like, is that your story? Like, how did you get involved? Because you are in PG County, Maryland, and you are connected in so many ways, and you are really a networker amongst the folks who are trying to make things happen. How did you get here?
So actually, it's interesting. I saw a candidate one day who was running for office, and I got on involved with a campaign. And his name was Greg Hall. He was running for House delegates. Greg was not the traditional candidate you might think to see. Greg was he was somebody who changed his life around. 20 years prior, he was involved in a shootout that took the life of a 7-year-old. But it was not his bullet that hit the child. But Greg turned his life around, opened up 3 businesses in the Sea Pleasant area, and was doing well. But unfortunately, he was not received well, um, because though we talk about social justice right now and recidivism and returning citizens, uh, back then, only just a couple years back in 2010, people still didn't. Back then, that conversation wasn't as vocal as it is now. And unfortunately, Greg, he didn't win his seat. He went up for appointment after one of the delegates got in trouble, and yet again the governor rescinded his his um, his his consideration for the appointment. And today, unfortunately, Greg is not with us because he was killed by a drunk driver. But yeah, it was people like Greg Hall, it was people like the mayor of Fairmont Heights, Lily Thompson Martin, and so many other elected officials that I had the opportunity to work with, Glenn Ivey, Jolene Ivey, who kind of shaped me, my village. Some of these people even showed me how to drive, taught me how to drive and things like that. So I learned a lot from them. But then also my parents were older as well. So hearing the stories of how they migrated from the South to come to the Washington D.C. area, that also helped shape and just learning that government is involved in everything from your driver's license just to from when you're born. You need a birth certificate. From when you die, a death certificate. Your government, you have to get all these things from government, and either every part of your life is regulated by government or controlled or licensed by the government.
And I see
also, don't forget we get our tax. People in the church said that's politics now. We ain't supposed to be doing that. But you got your 501c3 status from who?
Government.
And you don't say that's politics, though, right?
It's big.
Yeah, I want to point out that the pictures we saw.
Sean is gone. Come back, Sean. We love you, brother. There he is. Praise the Lord.
The pictures that we just brought up with Sean. I think it was Mayor Muriel Bowser from DC, and then there was that also Steny Hoyer, correct? Am I correct in that?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was really good. I think 3J has.
I got a question. So a couple of days ago, there was this thing that I don't know much about it. Actually, Ramon brought it to my attention. So there's this thing that's out called Vote to Freedom Act. I'm saying it right. I'm sorry. The Freedom to Vote.
No, the Freedom to Vote Act, brother.
There you go. So I guess I'll start with Sean first on this one. What do you know about the Freedom of Vote Act? What is it actually? And then, of course, you can go ahead and tear the clothes out.
Listen, Brother Mark, our folks, our relatives that are online have started calling you Unc.
Yeah, we call you Unc now.
Uncle Mark.
We call you
Unc.
Oh, Lord.
Hey, you know this. And you can blame them.
No.
I'm looking at the chats and everyone's like, yeah, Unc, talk Unc. And it kind of just went with it. So I was, all right, Unc.
This is Unc right here. Unc makes, what about Uncle John Lewis? Make good trouble. All right.
That's it.
Sean, what you know about the Freedom of Vote Act?
Well, for my knowledge, it's a continuation of going against the discriminatory limits on voting for us African Americans, as well as some other people as well, that was put into this law. And unfortunately, it was unanimously voted against by the Republicans section of Congress.
Yeah.
Okay. What you got on it?
Well, that he got it right for the most. Yeah. The what happened is, all right, the Voting Rights. It was the Freedom to Vote Act was a response to these voter suppression laws that were taking place in the country. So the Democrats had to do a response to it, and they wanted to come up with guidelines of how elections should be run. So they came up with the Freedom to Vote Act, and they gave it to Senator Manchin from West Virginia because he didn't like what was called the previous bill that was the Democrats were working on, and others. So there was a vote to discuss the bill. All right. So I don't want to go to all the rules. So in the Senate, the U.S. Senate, to discuss the bill, you need 60 votes. So there was only 50 Democratic votes. So you didn't get the 10 Republican votes. So the Republicans make some excuses. I mean, 10 years ago, they would have voted for this act and they would have just moved on, right? And so that was the vote that took place a couple of days ago. So the big issue that's before us is this, quote, filibuster that exists where you need 60 votes to bring up a bill. Are Democrats going to have the courage to carve out a change in the filibuster so the Freedom to Vote Act can pass? All right. And that's what's going on. So and then you have what is called the John Lewis Bill, Advancement Act. If you recall, the Supreme Court said, well, things have changed in the South. We don't need no more Voting Rights Act, right? White folks says change, right? Well, we saw what happened now, right? So what was then the Voting Rights Act only pertained to certain states in the country who have a history of discrimination against folks from voting, and that was black folk and those who lived in the South. So the Supreme Court ruled, well, we don't need that no more. If they want to make changes in the law, they can go ahead and do it, and the Justice Department doesn't have a say-so in that. So what the John Lewis Advancement Act does is brings back the right of brings back the when you make changes in your voting laws, registration laws, and the right to and voting procedures, it all goes to the Justice Department, and the Justice Department can vote up yes or down or no on what you've done, and it includes now all 50 states and the District of Columbia. So and so that was one of the things that the Supreme Court had talked about. So those are the two bills that we're working on now, and the Civil Rights
And I want
Movement,
to can I
NAACP. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
One thing that I was surprised to find out about the bill is actually that Justice Department piece, and it was like this is absolutely a move in the right direction, but I think this would be scary if this was under the last Justice Department.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's true. But if you go back in history, let's go back in history. That's why there's always a fight over who's going to be head of the Civil Rights Division. All right, all right. But remember, it automatically goes to the Justice Department, and the Justice Department can rule in any particular way. So that's one of the downsides of it. If with the United Methodist Attorney General Ramon, what was his name, from the great state of Alabama, that we just got finished talking about Sessions. What would he have done? I know, and that's a real good point, my brother.
Remember wasn't he Trump appointed too? He would have. Yeah, we know what happened.
Yeah.
It's interesting because y'all are talking about this stuff, right? And it's so interesting, right? Like we could talk about this a lot, but we don't often see. So there are a lot of folks, and so statistically, I was reading that as you get older, you become a little bit more involved in things like voting and legislation and all that stuff because, right, like I guess as you get older, you start to like learn more about this stuff. But typically, we also see that younger people are not necessarily like involved in the polling. Sorry, I think I'm taking 3J's question.
No, but brother, I thought the turnout in this last election by young people was outstanding. You cannot take it away.
So it's crazy, right? Because what I also read was that statistically, when the older folks vote more, it does have an effect on younger people, and it says that younger people vote more when older people vote more. Let me go to Sean first. Yeah. So Sean, I want to come to you and Pastor Tate because y'all have been a little quiet, especially Pastor Tate. So why don't we see younger people? Why do you think it is that? Because Sean, you're 20. Well, I'm not gonna put your age out there, but you're younger. You're in your 20s. Why is it that you're the people your age are not out there voting? Tehran, why do you think we don't see these younger people voting? And what do we do to get them involved? Because obviously things like this, the Freedom to Vote Act, are huge, but people don't even know about it, especially not even under 30, 35, 40, 25. This isn't even a big thing. So why is that? Like, how do we get people to know about this?
I so don't like it.
What I look are you ready for me?
Go on, Sean. Go on.
When you look at the last election, right? How we started off, we had this great bunch of candidates that people were excited to see. Different, you had these different colors, you had these different cultures. Even right here in our Democratic Party, and it came down to two old Caucasian men. So you had that excitement build up, then it got boring. You see these two white men fussing each other on stage and say, do I really want to be a part of this? Are they really going to represent me? Then you take away that spark of excitement of voting, and then that's how the young people really don't want to be involved in the process. They don't think things are going to change, that you actually have their platform in mind. Though I'm a Democrat, I must say right now it's a little leery about this student loan elimination right now. Too.
Yeah. So,
you just heard those things as well.
Can we come to one that?
Well, one senator wants to take that out of the bill. One senator gets to take that out of the bill because you only have 50 senators, and if you don't get her vote, she was not going to pass this bill back better, or we say bill back wholly. All right.
Well. Also, the president didn't really back too far down on.
Yeah, that's true. I agree.
standing by what he
Yeah,
wanted to do as well. So, and my thing is that, young people are looking at these things. They want definitely the college graduates who really want to see this happen, because this will definitely take a big toll off of them.
yeah,
So that's one thing. But also I do also agree that we need to make sure that we have accessibility for voting to everyone. Um,
yes,
Making sure that, like someone said, the senior
yes,
centers, making sure that we have accessible for voting inside of our detention centers as well, for those
yes.
who can vote,
And
to make sure that
the
they register and
Freedom to
that they
Vote
are voting.
Act addresses those. It addresses both of those. Those who get out of prison
It
and
does.
those who are in senior citizen homes. All right, because it sets a standard that these folks must be given. And then we have it also calls for a national holiday to vote, because in most countries around the world, the national day of voting is a holiday. You don't go, or you don't, you vote on Saturday or Sunday.
I think that's interesting because I think Pastor Tay and I were just having a conversation. Was it you, Pastor Tay, that said that it should be a holiday, or you were saying it should be, like it's crazy that they don't make a holiday?
But getting back to the prior question, as Sean was saying, and I will say, as far as young adults voting, we have come a long way.
That
But
we
also,
have.
when you look at Obama and his, what I mean, he spoke about change. Yes, we can. That resonated with the younger generation.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at Bernie Sanders, who kind of came from nowhere and had this, to be as old as he was, had a big push because he kind of catered to the agenda of what the younger generation is really looking for,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when that dark horse candidate didn't win, so like, oh well, I'm not in love with Biden and I don't like Trump, so
I'm bowing
either
out.
way I lose.
Yeah, it's so funny because we, I'm looking at how people have started calling Uncle Mark, and it's interesting because Bernie Sanders was the same way. You remember,
Uncle
it was like
Bernie,
Uncle
yeah,
Bernie.
yeah.
Everybody was like
He's
Uncle
still
Bernie.
Uncle.
Like,
He's still Uncle Bernie. He's still
You
Uncle
know.
Bernie.
Uncle Mark need to get rid of this gray hair, so y'all can't call me Uncle Mark. And that's all right. Yes.
Yeah. Well, right. But what? Okay. But so my question is, and I think Brendan. I remember when we were down the south doing the Black Methodist meeting, right? And we were like, and they were like, well, what? They were, how do we get young people involved in the church? How do we get young people involved in the church? And they were like, well, what are the steps? What then, Sean, I think you spoke to this too. Then what would you tell these candidates? Okay, what is it that Uncle Mark and Uncle Bernie are doing? What is it that Obama, what have they done that gets people involved that's not happening universally? Go ahead, Brendan. I know you got your hand up.
I think I'm
Go ahead.
What the Bible say? Without vision, the people perish. Like if you don't,
When there is no vision, my people perish.
right. That's what it is. When you don't when you don't grab people on that vision of what you want the future to be, or people don't identify with that, you're gonna lose them. Like you can be the most charismatic person, and it's like even in this conversation, like I'm listening to Mark, and yeah, that's Uncle Mark, because it's like I can identify with that. I can grab hold of what he's saying, and he might be saying it in a different vernacular than what I would use, but I can still identify with it, and we can still be cool. I might vote for Mark. I might vote for Sean right now. But it's like at the same time, if it was if it's someone else and they're coming, and honestly, if they were speaking for this voter suppression law, like instantly you lose me. And it's like in that case we have to consider that, and I think that's one of the scary things about where we are right now with Biden, because he could potentially lose if this student loan stuff don't go through. Like he could lose his reelection bid if this student loan thing don't go through, because so many people were like, "Oh, we getting student loan," and even though I don't support anybody voting for one person or another based on one issue. Like I don't want it to look like that, but I understand that happens.
I just want to say, not only is voting rights, but some of the key issues that are important to African Americans have not become law. Since, all right, that is H.R. 40, that's the reparations bill. And then you had the policing bill just died in the Senate. And nobody's saying anything.
Can I just touch bases on reparations?
Yes.
One thing, if anyone from Congress can see this, let's stop doing daggone studies and start getting some stuff put in action. We do a study year after year on reparations.
But you know what's in the bill? The bill is to come up with a plan to do that. Yeah, I know, but you know what's in the bill is to come up with a plan to do that. To do exactly what you say.
Put it into action.
All right. By the way, you need to say that. You need to say that to the guy you were standing next to the other, just up here now. He needs to hear you say that, and tell him we want to bring it to the floor. Oh yeah, because Stenny needs to hear that from you. And lastly, the Voting Rights Act, and that. But I will take back and I'll reflect on the whole importance of the the college piece. It's also very key and important. But my understanding is that it may be coming out. So we won't know until we see the final bill.
So it's interesting because our brother Jawan, who's on, he said we press for what we value, and Jawan, that's so true because maybe because I think it's like, I will be honest, right? Like I did not know as much about the Freedom to Vote Act until I really started studying more. Even getting ready for this, like I knew what was kind of going on, especially with the laws that have happened. I mean, because all of this stuff started really sort of pressing on right after Trump was elected, and it was almost like I feel like it was like, and listen, I call it what it is. I have some Republican views, I have some Democratic views, but I will say this, right? I think the crazy part was that
watch what you say.
When Trump lost, it really became this more like sour feeling amongst some Republicans, and not all Republicans. I'm not gonna put all Republicans out there, but the ones who felt like they lost and were sour about losing, as opposed to just taking the loss.
The ones that felt that Trump was a god.
The ones who felt like
let's put that what it is. Put that what it is.
And it was like, okay, this sort of move, and so I wish I could have had her on this encounter. There's a young lady who I know who actually recently, over the last couple of years, she was a Republican. She went to law school. She's actually working for a Republican in Congress. And she came to me not too long ago. She said, I am no longer Republican. I just thought you might want to hear that. I said, well, wow, why? She said, I have, for several years, I've fooled myself thinking, oh, we're good people. If they're all good people they're misunderstood. We're good Christians. She said, but really, the voter suppression stuff was what was the last straw for her. She said, this is not us trying to give people rights for vote. She said, honestly, this is really laws that we're trying to change because we're mad we did not win. And I cannot stand by and watch that. She was very clear with me about that. Wow. And I think that was so evolutionary to hear somebody say that. She's young. She's I think in her late 20s, maybe early 30s. But she was very clear. No, what we're doing right now is not in love. What we're doing is because we're sour that we lost.
Yeah. Well, I've had a discussion with a Republican who worked in the Bush administration. And I said, well, what do you think it's going to take to change the Republicans to actually go out and get black voters? And the response I've got was, he thought that if Republicans lost 3 straight presidential elections, they would probably have to think and change. Now, they have not gotten them. And the good news in some ways is they haven't gotten the majority of voters in the last how many elections? And this has been significant because I used to always say the majority of white people have not voted for a Democrat to be president since Johnson. All right, that's how far it goes back. And you, I guess everybody on this, none of y'all were born then.
I don't think so.
right.
I was.
I want-
I
Jonathan.
don't think so.
Yeah, and that was the last time most white people voted for a Democrat to be president. So a friend of mine who teaches at Howard University says that should tell you something. and and it's more people of color, black people, brown people. We're growing in numbers. That this is upsetting to a significant number of white people. It's bothersome to them. So this is why this partly explains the reaction. All right, that's taking place in the country right now.
So, all right, yesterday, so 2 days ago, right? They again voted through filibuster, which that's a whole other conversation because people are tired of filibuster. They were able to push this. How do we now get this important legislation to pass? What is necessary? Is it more awareness?
Get rid of the filibuster. Get rid of the filibuster. Get rid of either you carve out that says the following. This is what Republicans did. All right. Republicans wanted more judges. They didn't want the judges to be filibustered. So what did they do? They changed the rules so that all you need was 50 votes plus one to be considered for a judge or to be controlled, even to get on the Supreme Court, right? So they have been steadily going along when they are in the majority in the U.S. Senate and say, okay, Democrats, you are obstructionists. Therefore, we're going to get rid of this filibuster, that filibuster. So if the voting rights is central to the democracy of this country, then the Democrats are going to have to either get rid of the filibuster entirely or do a carve out that says when it comes to voting rights, all you need is 50 plus one.
Yeah.
And remember, most of the states, you're going, I'm sorry.
No, sorry. I just want to point out in our comments, Miss Nikki says, which is why one of the arguments is the great replacement. One of the talking points is because there are more people of color voting, and white people and their vote are being replaced.
Yeah, I want to say partially to that. When I was coming up, we never thought that a black man could be president. I didn't think Obama could be president. All right, so I was wrong, right? But we were also told another thing. If a black man becomes president, they'll change the rules. And that started under Obama, right? As soon as he became president, we're going to change the rules. All right? Who can vote? Who can't vote? All right? Yeah. All right? Yeah. And it is not totally his fault. What did we see? After he became president, we saw the biggest shift towards the Republican Party at the state level, because you always say, Mark, you always talk about the national level. At the state level, Republicans took over the state legislature after Obama became president.
Yeah, for those who are with us, let me just point out that what he's saying. I mean, we see that in the country. If you're not aware of it, right? Like not only in politics, but right, like in sports, a black person wins, and all of a sudden the rules change, right?
Yes.
Because this black person won. Well, now we're going to expand and do this. Or now when Tiger Woods won,
Simone Biles in the Olympics.
Simone Biles, right? Like all of a sudden we got to change the way things are done when black people become leaders, and that is
my fault. I don't want to undersell us black folks. When black people excel at something, like when we excel and do great things, they start to change things. Like it ain't even just winning. It's when we overachieve what they believe we can achieve.
Yeah. Which is the dumbest thing ever.
Yeah. Well, it's because they didn't want us to win the first place.
I'm just saying it's dumb to think that we can't achieve and we're human. The only difference is we're a color. So to think that we can't achieve and do the same things you can do is absolutely stupid. That's just me, though. I'm sorry. That's just me. To think that just because I can't achieve something. Like, that is just ignorant. I can't say the word I want to say, but it's very ignorant to me. And so I'll leave it at that.
One thing I want to say is that we as black people are fighters. We will not take this standing. We will not just sit there and allow this to happen. And we've done it since we've been here in this country. And we're going to fight to make sure that we keep our right to vote. And I don't know how much longer we have, but there is going to be a demonstration this Saturday in Washington, D.C. at 11 o'clock at Right to Vote demonstration on New Jersey Avenue and Constitution. So
Man, you
people
got
can come on out and vote. Yeah. Anyway.
Sean, you were about to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to say this too, is that I think it's great for people to get out and vote. But one thing that I've been seeing in the last 11 years I've been working in this field is that when you go out to vote, make sure that you study up on the candidates. Don't just go by
Yes.
what people tell you, how people tell you to vote. The people sent out something called sample ballots, and these sample ballots are paid for sometimes by developers, sometimes by special interests,
Yeah.
and they want you to vote a certain way. Even the politicians, their candidate committees pay for the ballots. You can look right at the back of them, and at the bottom it tells you
Yeah.
paid for by authority of this committee, this committee, this committee, this committee. Look at
Sean,
who's telling these things when
Sean,
they send it
I
out to
think
you.
I want to say that's easier said than done. When you get the ballot, all right, I got to learn everybody. When I moved back to Prince George's County, I went out of the way. Who is my person in the state legislature? Who is the person on the Prince George's County Council, right? And then you get all these people who are running, and you say, well, how do I go back and look at each one to figure out, well, where did they come from? All right. Well, I mean, what is their position? So I have to give some trust to persons like you who can give me some direction, because I just feel that there are too many candidates to do that kind
Yes,
of research.
but people like
And I
me,
think,
I don't have the money or
yeah, I
the
know.
to send out ballots like that throughout the mail to tell you who to vote for. I'm saying
Yeah,
that they're sending out
yes.
deceptive. There's people out here who will send out deceptive ballots who will tell you this is the official Democratic ballot. I want you to vote this way. And what happens
Yes,
is, and that's
it's
how
not.
when you said somebody who I was in a picture with, that's how they stay in office, because they send out these ballots year after year after year. It was actually a ballot that was sent
Oh, you
out.
say Stenny does this, man? Is
I,
that what you're
I
saying?
didn't say no one's name, but but, but that's how certain people stay in office year after year after year.
Hey, that
It
ain't
was actually one
politics.
even one candidate in the last election, after Obama was already out of office, used a picture of Obama. And people were like, oh, Obama. Yeah. And they were
Yes,
like, yeah, I'm with Obama. And people wouldn't go vote for the person just because of that. We have to we need to get more educated voters. And I think that even our young people are those more educated voters. And I think that we definitely need
yes,
to make sure that we come out and vote as well. The seniors, they vote.
yes.
That's given
Too
fact.
Mark,
busy when our Social Security
and
checks. But
to that,
I also think young
yeah.
people vote more. But I think because of smart media, I see more young people doing things that I have not seen. I didn't have that when I was coming up.
Social media is definitely a good tool.
Yeah,
It's definitely a good tool to use.
It is.
Good and bad though.
Right. And let me do one piece of advertisement. This is from the Freedom Bus Rides. You know, Black Voters Matter. When they came here and they gave out free T-shirts, and this is Freedom Rides. And when I wear this out on and shopping and so forth, a number of black people ask me about this. And I think, and I'm finding that many of us do understand what is happening right now.
Yeah, we have just a few minutes left. Brendan, I think you were going to.
Yeah, I mean, I think to both points, to Sean's points and Mark's point, I think we as black people need to be more active and proactive in the political sphere, and understanding what's being offered to us from different candidates, and finding those trusted sources when you can't research everybody. Find somebody you trust, that you trust their decision making, and they can give you the real, and you might have a conversation about a candidate you don't have time to research on. But Mark, you actually sent us some information earlier, and I wanted to check with you first, because I would love to share it in our comments, the link that you sent with all of the information, especially about like contacting your like the White House I guess conversation hours or something like that. and everything.
Oh, I did. Did
If
I
it's
send
okay
that?
with
But I
you,
sent out so much stuff I can't remember. Is that the one? Well, there are White House calls you can get on,
He said too.
and believe me, they have a lot of them. There are a
yeah,
lot of them.
I
Get on
wanted to
those
get
calls.
you. I wanted to get because as much as we can, we try to
Yes.
empower our audience with action steps. So if it's
Yeah.
okay with you, I would
Yeah.
share it in there so people could
That's
view it.
fine.
Because I
That's
seen that
fine.
there was some. Okay, awesome, cool. So I'm gonna drop
And
that
there
link.
was,
But
I
there,
also sent the information out about the freedom of vote, the demonstration tomorrow. I mean on Saturday, and information on a toolkit on the Freedom to Vote Act, and so I've sent it, passed it on to you. I hope you can use it. All right.
Awesome, man.
And
Listen,
I sent our great United Methodist General Secretary's letter that we sent to all members of the Senate asking them to support the Voting Rights, the Freedom to Vote Act, and the John Lewis bill. By the way, John Lewis used to come into the, for those who are on the phone, the United Methodist building is located on Capitol Hill, right across the street from the Supreme Court. And John Lewis used to come to the building and did many events. So it was a lost.
Yeah. As we close, I want to ask this question briefly. Mark and Sean, especially, let me ask this question. What do you want people, what's the one thing, if you had the one thing you want to make sure people understand and take away, right, in just 60 seconds of this, if there's one thing you want people to understand and take away, what is that? And then also I want you to share with them how they might be able to get in touch with you if they like to get more resource from you, or if they want to find you on social media or anything like that, any kind of way that they might be able to find out more information from you, because I think people always like to know how do they get in touch with the source. So again, if there's one thing you want to make sure people walk away from and get from this conversation, what would that be? And then also, how can they get in touch with you?
Okay. I don't know. We don't have a chat button. I could type in my email address if people wanted to be in contact with me, and that's M Harrison HARRISON at UMC Justice JUSTICE.org. M Harrison at UMCjustice.org. I think what I want to ask is, since we are in a region, I don't know if we have people from how many people from outside of the DC area we have on this call, because most members are for the voting rights and from Maryland and Virginia. But I think that we need to continue to fight for our voting rights and do any way shape. We've got family and friends in other states. I don't know if we're going to ever get any Republicans on it, but I would say you need to let our Democratic U.S. senators, Cardin and what's the, know that we want them to find a way out of no way and pass the Voting Rights Act, the Freedom to Vote Act, and the John Lewis bill. Get rid of the filibuster to do that. I think that's the best thing, that the message that they need to hear from Maryland voters. And I'm sorry, Chris Van Hollen. Chris Van Hollen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome.
Those are two things I think that we could do right now, is to call their numbers, and the phone number is 202-224-3121, and just ask for their office and say, find a way to pass the Voting Rights Act. Get rid of the filibuster to do it. That's my thing I think we should be doing, to encourage them to do that.
Brother Sean, what you got?
I'm glad Mark brought that up. I want to kind of change and shift a little bit. I think that for those of you who can go out and vote, make sure you do vote. Majority of people who live in majority of our counties and our cities across the country, even our heavily metropolitan areas, majority of the people who are registered do not come out and vote. The voter turnout, we don't see, though we see high increases sometime during presidential years. we really don't see that many. It's still not that many of the registered voters within that particular jurisdiction. So make sure you actually go out and vote when you have the opportunity to vote. So that's one
Yeah.
thing I will say. Another thing is make sure you vote in the off-year elections as well. If you live in Maryland, we
Yeah,
have our
that's key.
gubernatorial election. You have the governor's seat is up. We have the Congress, the U.S. Senate. Because if you want the president to have support, he's going to need support in Congress by the U.S. Senate and the House of Representatives. Then you also have your governor race. You have the state Senate and the House of Delegates that support them. You have your Office of the Attorney General, which give legal opinions, who does protections for consumer rights. You also have the comptroller who deals with the money for your state. Then you go down to your county level. You have your county executive that deals with zoning, land use, economic development coming to your county jurisdictions and laws that affect you there. That from your police department, who appoints your police chief, your health department, your corrections department. You have that's a very important position. You have the county council who regulates and does a legislative body for that county. You also have you may have your district attorney, what here we call it state's attorney, which is the prosecutor. You have judges that you elect, and sometimes judges are elected to a 15-year term. You get to elect the judges that sits on the bench. So people talk about the criminal justice system. You get to elect the prosecutor and the judges. You get to elect the sheriff as well.
Okay.
So don't complain about the prosecution about the justice system. You get to elect the sheriff, the judges, and your prosecutor. Get out there and vote.
Mhm.
We also have other races that people don't really talk about much. Register wills. You have clerk of the court. You have mayors. You have city and local town council and or commissioners. There are races all the way down the ballot, even to
Mhm.
nonpartisan school board races as well. Make sure you get out and vote.
Wow. Yeah.
You can reach
Yeah.
me at Political Guy on Instagram and on Facebook as Sean Sean Michael Michael Wilson Wilson.
Yeah, long name.
Right. Listen, I can't thank you guys enough for being. Listen, it is a long name, but I love it because well, what I love about Sean is that he uses that name, man. Listen, it is a.
That's your
you,
brand.
You will
Yeah,
not.
sure.
Yeah, you will never
Brand.
get that name.
Hey.
So listen, Sean Michael Wilson and Uncle Mark. We
Oh
appreciate the
man.
two of you guys for being on.
Uncle
We have
Mark.
dropped a lot of that information in the chat for those who are watching now and those who will watch later. I saw a lot of names pop up tonight that I've never seen.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome to the well. Listen, if you did pop in late and you thought that this was a decent conversation, take a moment, like this post, comment, and let us know that you're watching. Even if you're watching it 3 days from now, comment, let us know that you were watching, and then share this post.
And beyond that, if you think this was tight, go back to the rest of them.
Yeah, listen, check out our history.
Check out our history. Like, gee, check out track record.
If you would like to give, because listen, it takes money to make this thing work, and we've got a lot of great things that are happening and will be coming up soon. You can give by texting to give. Text the numbers 84321, any dollar amount, just like you see in the picture. So if you want to support with $5, you put $5. You want to support with $500, you put $500 and text that amount to 84321. You can also follow us on our website, www.encounterthewell.org. And if you go to our website, the last piece is giving. So you can just go to the last tab, which is giving. Also follow us on our social media platforms, Instagram and Facebook at Encounter the Well. That is our branded name, Encounter the Well, on each one of our social media platforms. And definitely make sure that you are following the Amplify Network, which is the broadcast, which is how we are able to broadcast to you. Listen, guys, it's been a great conversation. We've got next week, we're talking hate thy neighbor, gentrification. We are talking about gentrification. So it is going to be a deep conversation next Thursday. We have some amazing folks that'll be on with us next Thursday as well.
You got to call that guy that lives in that apartment building across the street from that Metro PCS. Give him on the show.
All right.
If you know of the great Joe Daniels will be on with us, as well as Pastor Tosca Nelson. So I'm excited to have both of them on. And listen, check out our website, check out our social media. We've been putting up a lot more stuff on our social media, so make sure you interact and mark your calendar for November 21st. During the day. It's a it's a Sunday at 12 o'clock. There's going to be some 12:30. There's some information that will be coming out this weekend about November 21st at 12:30. So all my Wellians who are around, there's going to be an in-person event happening on November 21st that we'll tell you more about. That will be coming out over the weekend. Listen, again, thank you guys for being on with us. Thank you, Jackie. Until we meet again next week, we love y'all, and there is nothing you can do about it.
Gang, gang.
Boom.
Shout out to this. Thank you, Miss Riley, for watching on YouTube. I saw you on YouTube, Miss Riley. Thanks for watching.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.